Welcome to our Fireside Chat among ATT&CK benefactors. I'm John Baker, the Director of the Center for Threat-Informed Defense. I'd like to start off by introducing you to three leaders from the ATT&CK community and kick off a conversation about the role that ATT&CK plays in the community and how the community can work together to ensure that ATT&CK keeps pace with the evolving threats that we're all working to defend against. So to get us started, Adam Pennington, a longtime friend and partner from MITRE, do you want to get us started off, introduce yourself, provide a little bit of information about your role in the ATT&CK community?
Yeah, sure. My name is Adam Pennington, and I lead the MITRE ATT&CK framework. I've been leading MITRE ATT&CK for the last 4 years, and a part of it, its entire 10-year existence. MITRE, if you don't know us, is a not-for-profit that primarily runs federally funded research development centers and works in the public interest. And we've been around for over 60 years at this point.
Yeah, Adam, when you look at ATT&CK and kind of the larger MITRE organization, it really is sort of a unique thing that MITRE has done, kind of grown up out of our research program where, MITRE really spends most of its time working directly with our federal government sponsors running FFRDCs. Tim from Imperium, do you want to take a moment, introduce yourself, and share a little bit about your role in your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello to everybody. My name is Tim Roddy. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing at Imperium. We're a leading mobile threat defense vendor and have been embarked on that for a number of years. We use MITRE extensively in our product development and working with our customers. And I've been involved in MITRE testing, a previous company on the enterprise side for a number of years. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. It's great to have you here today as well. Rich Struess from Title Cyber, do you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself and your organization?
Well, first, thanks for the opportunity to chat with everyone today. I'm Rich Struess. I am a co-founder and Chief Technology Officer for Title Cyber, the threat-informed defense platform company. I had the pleasure and honor to work with both Adam and John in the 4.5 years that I was at MITRE until I left to co-found Title Cyber. So it's great to be back talking to you guys.
Yeah, Tim, Rich, Adam, thrilled to have you guys here today. I'm super excited to get us started with a conversation about ATT&CK, the role and the impact it's had in the community and the Benefactor program. So maybe to get us started, Adam, you have, as the ATT&CK lead, a really unique perspective on ATT&CK and how it's evolved. Do you want to start us off with just sharing a little bit of background for those that aren't familiar with ATT&CK? What is ATT&CK? How has it evolved? What's your experience been with ATT&CK?
Yeah, sure. So ATT&CK, we like to use knowledge base so that it's a knowledge base of adversary behaviors. It's like an encyclopedia of things that actual threat actors have done in the real world. It grew up from an internal research project, as John hinted at a little bit earlier, where we had some information on things that we'd been seeing actual state hackers doing in environments. A small team from within MITRE pulled together that information in order to let them talk about red and blue teaming activities internally. Really just covered Windows at that time. And we thought other people might find it useful too, and so released it to the world in 2015. And so ATT&CK has grown over time from that Windows beginning to cover Linux, to cover all sorts of cloud platforms, to cover network devices, and then even farther afield from what you'd find inside of a lot of enterprises into industrial control systems like operational technology networks and mobile, where we're covering iOS and Android platforms.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, the growth and really community adoption and support for ATT&CK has been amazing to me as I've been able to kind of see it evolve over the last 10 or so years at this point. As we kind of move on here, I think we all have that kind of unique perspective. Tim talked about some of his experience, Rich, some of your experience with ATT&CK over the years. Do you guys want to kind of expand on that? I'd love to hear, Rich, from your perspective, what MITRE ATT&CK has really been for you. And then, Tim, if you could follow on, that'd be great.
Yeah, so when I got to MITRE in the summer of 2017, ATT&CK was already a thing, a phenomenon that was growing really by leaps and bounds. And, MITRE is never accused of being a world-class marketing organization. And it was clear ATT&CK was garnering all of this interest in the community, spread by word of mouth largely, because it was solving a useful problem. And so that was amazing to watch the growth of ATT&CK. Fundamentally, why it's been so successful is it's a common language. It allows people to tie together otherwise disparate activities, CTI and the red team, detection engineering, security engineering, vendors talking about their products. By having a common language, we can actually now start answering important operational and strategic questions about how do we defend against this? Do we have a defense against this? Is this adversary related to this adversary? And so it's a simple idea, complex in its execution, but truly fundamental, I think, to the advancement of cybersecurity.
Tim, what is ATT&CK for you at Imperium in your experience?
Well, I agree with everything Richard just said and expand upon it. At Imperium, MITRE mobile attack in particular, because we're a mobile vendor, is a great tool that helps organizations better understand the behaviors of our adversaries, and it enhances their cybersecurity defense as a result of it. And it really helps, we think, in a couple of ways. ATT&CK serves as a common language for security professionals to talk amongst each other, share information, share threat intelligence throughout the cybersecurity community. We love the structured framework that helps members of the community to easily analyze, detect, and respond to cyber threats and do it very quickly. Especially, that's something we hear about extensively with the well-known worldwide shortage of cybersecurity professionals that are out there. Having a framework helps, makes things go quicker. It also assists and facilitates our ability as a vendor to help our customers threat hunt effectively and efficiently. ATT&CK helps the community improve and implement really good, well thought out cyber defense strategies you can map to the techniques and tactics that are there, and we do that. And lastly, I would say it helps organizations do self-assessments and look at the gap analysis. Where do they not have coverage? And then you can talk about, well, how are we going to address it? Is it policies, procedures, other products, what have you? But at the end of the day, it helps improve their defenses against these known attack techniques.
Yeah, that kind of theme that Rich and Adam and Tim, you guys all emphasized, this common language, ATT&CK kind of supporting multiple different use cases and kind of coordination among those use cases, I think is really critical and kind of foundational into how ATT&CK has grown as much as it has over the last several years. From my perspective, we see it all the time. Security teams really around the world use ATT&CK. They base their security programs, their products, their services on ATT&CK as that common language. And so, Adam, I think you're in a really unique position as the lead for the ATT&CK program with really that broad visibility across the community. So from your perspective, I'm curious, what do you think has been sort of the key ingredient, the special thing about MITRE ATT&CK that's really allowed it to resonate with so many different organizations and be successful enabling cyber defenders?
So, I mean, what helped it become that common language and sort of what seemed to make it click for people once they first found it, because it took a few years for people to start discovering it, was its threat intelligence focus. So it's threat-informed background, where ATT&CK was built from things that we had actually seen adversaries do, rather than sitting down and speculating about everything that they could do. That could do list is huge and doesn't necessarily overlap with sort of the real world. And so when people first saw ATT&CK, they took a look at it and went, wait a second, that's what I've been seeing people doing. And we've kept that growth up over time, following threat intelligence, following reporting, working with hundreds and hundreds of different community members. We have over 500 contributors to ATT&CK these days. And so that focus on keeping it real and growing into spaces where there's enough knowledge to talk about what's real, I think has been one of the sort of key ingredients that's been a little bit different on ATT&CK.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And I agree that that basis in Intel is critical and really helped it kind of resonate with practitioners. Tim, Rich, I'm curious to get your perspective on, what do you think really allowed ATT&CK to kind of resonate and to have the impact it's had? I'll maybe start with you, Tim.
Well, it's a great question. I think the main thing is it begins to fill in gaps. So for us at Imperium, we find the frameworks very effective in filling a knowledge gap that we see typically missing within security operations teams. Those teams are familiar with traditional security threats, but they're not as familiar with the threats that specifically address mobile platforms. Mobile's different than endpoint. It's not just another endpoint, not like Windows or Mac. And there's different threats, different ways of defending. I mean, you got a camera and a phone you don't have in other devices that opens up all kinds of different threat vectors for you. And so being able to point organizations when we're in a sales cycle or just working with them or with their consultants to a well-respected third party that said, here's the tactics and techniques that you need to worry about, which is what MITRE does, really helps fill this knowledge gap. So they now know and see the tactics, techniques, and procedures that they need to worry about and address those gaps that I mentioned earlier in the other answer that need to be attacked there. So, the value really comes up in a couple of different areas. One is, standardized threat knowledge. Because it's structured, it's publicly available, we're all talking about the same things. And as Adam just noted, it's what we're actually seeing out there, not just speculating pie in the sky, theoretically what might happen, although those things may happen in the future. It's very helpful in kind of focusing people there. And then focusing on threat detection and defense. At the end of the day, you got to be able to detect things, and it's focusing on the ones that you should be worried about. And lastly, the gap analysis. You can map what your capabilities are as an organization now on mobile, like you do in other areas, and figure out where your gaps are and where you need to fill them in. And we find that very valuable with customers. We can overlay in the sales process. Here's what you get from a mobile device management solution. Here's what you get from a threat defense solution. Here's what you get from an app vetting solution. There's very little overlay on them all, but you start overlaying all those things together and you really start to cover the matrix pretty well.
Yeah, I think that overlay, Tim, starts to kind of go towards that comment Rich made about making a threat-informed decision. Right. You're able to use that threat intelligence to understand where your gaps are and make informed decisions. Rich, love to hear your perspective on the gaps that ATT&CK fills.
Yeah, well, Tim used a really important term, I think, well respected. And I think, we have to go back to understand the role that MITRE has played in the ecosystem and the role that the ATT&CK team plays and the amount of credibility and trust that the community has in ATT&CK and its team members around objectivity and neutrality and sort of calling it the way they see it. I'm a vendor now, right? And there's lots of vendors out there. And I think if ATT&CK was promulgated by a vendor, no matter how big and powerful a vendor it was, I just don't think it would have filled that gap, which was that neutral meeting place. So we talk about a common language. I'll throw another metaphor. It's a neutral meeting place. It's a place that vendors who normally are fierce competitors in the marketplace can come to agree on T, 1158. And that means something concrete. It means something, and it means the same thing in different contexts. To repeat myself, these are not complex ideas, but they're so powerful when implemented well. And, so hats off to the ATT&CK team and MITRE for doing such a great job of being stewards of what's now become, far bigger than what Blake Strom and crew imagined, back in 2013 now, right? So that I think is critically important. It's that neutral, vendor independent way of talking about threat.
Yeah, Rich, I think you hit a couple things there that I think have really been critical to allowing ATT&CK to scale. I really see Adam as the ATT&CK lead, as the steward of this knowledge base, but that role only exists because The community trusts Atom and MITRE to operate this resource because the community contributes intel and technical contributions to support the resource because people use it and use it to collaborate, right? So I think those are some of those key ingredients that have allowed us to really see ATT&CK grow to the scale that it has to date. Real quick, I wanted to give Tim and Rich just an opportunity to share a little bit more about how specifically you use ATT&CK. Tim, do you have a couple thoughts there about how Zimperium uses ATT&CK?
Yeah, we use it very actively with our sales team when we're talking to prospects and evangelizing. For example, we help educate customers in the sales cycle. Everybody when you're asked to spend money on something, well, what's the value I get from it, right? And from in terms of actually stopping a threat or whatever, or checking a compliance box, things like that. So we highlight to them where their gaps are with their current solutions compared to what we can do. We actually put the matrix up there, and we can go through each box on the matrix. You mentioned one of them just a moment ago, and say, where are you with your current security defenses, and where are you going to be if you add us on there? What happens if you turn on application vetting? You get additional coverage. They may say, oh, what am I already getting from my MDM vendor? Well, not what we're doing. There's not a lot of overlap there. So MDM, MTD, app vetting, they all have an effect on a security posture, and eventually, when you're reporting to the board on your compliance efforts, you're able to say, we've got these things covered. And if they ask how, you can go explain that to them. So we use it natively in our products to help secure ops teams identify and react to threats so they can actually see it where it is in the matrix. So it's actively used there. That allows people therefore to execute on playbooks when they find something, and we've got playbooks put together for them so they can walk them through what they need to do. They're easy enough that pretty much anybody can understand if they've got working in a SOC somewhere.
Yeah, that's great, Tim. And I see it really as a resource to help your customers make those threat-informed decisions. Rich, do you want to talk a little bit about how Tidal uses ATT&CK?
Yeah, thank you. So, Tidal Cyber is the threat-informed defense platform company. Threat-informed defense, right? So ATT&CK is really the foundation on the threat side of that entire concept. Threat-informed defense, leveraging an understanding of adversaries and their technical behaviors to organize, assess, and optimize your defenses. So, ATT&CK is this foundational resource for us, and which is why we support it. We think of our threat intelligence knowledge base as a layer cake, and the bottom layer of that layer cake is always the tastiest layer. I'll say to Adam, it's a chocolate hazelnut, and it is the latest version of ATT&CK. So when ATT&CK v16 comes out in a couple of weeks, we'll update our knowledge base, and all of the additional threat intelligence that we curate from high confidence open source sources is added onto that. And then the customer's own threat intelligence and those that they get from threat intelligence feeds and their threat intelligence platform all come together in our platform. And also, just to do another shout out, it's not just the content of ATT&CK, it's the structure. It's those relationships, it's the definitions, because we pour a ton of additional threat intelligence on top of what the MITRE team has the time and resources to curate, but we get to leverage that same exact structure, and that's hugely valuable to us. The other side of it, threat-informed defense is where we take and work with security products and their vendors to understand what we built, to build what we call cyber defense intelligence, where we're building detailed, granular understanding of security products and their capabilities as mapped to specific TTPs within ATT&CK, further characterize it by the type of defense, and then use that. We fuse that together to give our customers a view of their as-is security posture, and then make recommendations about how to improve it. None of that would be possible without the foundational elements of ATT&CK, which really undergird everything that we do.
Thanks, Rich and Tim, for kind of talking us through how you specifically use ATT&CK. I thought in the last couple minutes here, we'd pivot for a moment and talk a little bit about the Benefactor program. We created the Benefactor program to allow the community of organizations, individuals that build upon, innovate with, and really rely upon MITRE ATT&CK to contribute financially to support it, to ensure that it remains free and open as this valued, trusted community resource. So first, I'm incredibly grateful to Rich, Title, Tim, and Zimperium for being some of our very first benefactors. So thank you. I thought I would ask Rich maybe to start us off, what led Title Cyber to make the decision to become a benefactor?
Well, I mean, I think it's clear now. I'm a fan. We're a fan. But more importantly, the pivotal role that ATT&CK plays, not only in our business, but in cybersecurity worldwide. And if that went away, I mean, so here's a thought experiment. What if ATT&CK stopped, ceased to exist, there was no funding for it? What would that do to your security program? What would that do to your security product roadmap? What would that do to the threat intelligence landscape? That would be terrible. And consequently, I think we all have, not just vendors, I think large consumers of threat intelligence and ATT&CK, we all have enlightened self-interest, if not a moral obligation, to support this community resource. It is freely available to all. It is curated in a neutral and objective manner. And if we want that to continue, we need to put our money where our mouth is and support that. So, the way I look at it, the broader the base of support, the more you have people, contributing, reasonable amounts of money, as opposed to like one giant vendor or company coming in and dropping a boatload of money on Adam, however much he might want that. I think it's just great because then it has lots of stakeholders. And again, it just reinforces that objectivity and neutrality, which is really the hallmark of MITRE and the ATT&CK team.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Really appreciate the kind perspective there. Tim, I'm curious, for Zimperium, what led you and the organization to make the decision to become one of our first benefactors?
Well, for us, it was a pretty straightforward and easy decision. At Zimperium, we believe very strongly in the value of cybersecurity best practices and methodologies. You have to be able to benchmark against something. How good am I against something? You need that independent, respected measuring stick. And Mobile ATT&CK provides us with the framework that we as a vendor and any customer looking to buy a solution can measure against for their own best practices. But we as a vendor, are we addressing the tactics and techniques, and the ones that we deal with today are going to be different in the future. We all know that, right? And so we can always constantly measure against that. And I think the industry's better off. We're better as a vendor. And it allows us to have an independent, test bake-off eventually. Hopefully we'll be testing against the MITRE mobile matrix as well, to show that, we are indeed ability to deliver on those. And I know we've done that in the past with Enterprise MITRE, and that's what we look forward to happening in the future. And we're very happy to participate in that, sponsor it, and look forward to the future.
Yeah. Well, Tim, Rich, I really appreciate you taking the time to join the Fireside chat today and for your support. I like that last comment there, Tim. As Adam said, ATT&CK really is this knowledge base. But I do think a lot of organizations end up using it as that measuring stick. We don't, with the knowledge base, measure organizations, but we provide you with the resources so that you can do that informed, systematic measurement of your capabilities. So as we wrap up here, I'd like to close with a little bit of perspective. I really think you've heard from Adam, from Tim, from Rich here, how ATT&CK is infrastructure that the whole community relies upon at this point. Organizations around the world use it in the core of their services, their products, at the core of their cyber defense programs. I love that we've had several organizations step up, like Title Cyber and Zimperium, to support us as benefactors. Very much appreciate that. And as we wrap up, I would encourage everyone out there that actively uses ATT&CK to take a look at the Benefactor program and consider how you can step up to really help ensure ATT&CK, this knowledge base that we all depend upon, remains free and open and continues to scale and evolve as the threat landscape evolves. You can learn more about the Benefactor program on our website, and definitely reach out to us. We'd love to add on several new benefactors to help us continue to scale the ATT&CK community. So with that, one last time, Adam, thank you for your time today. Rich Struess, very much appreciate you joining us. Tim Roddy, thank you so much for your time and support.